Hello, business management, internship, and capstone students. I sent an email to one of the students about an important issue regarding employers' employment, and I thought it would be a good idea I share this information with you as well. And that is when you all get a job, work for an organization, one of the very important thing for the employees, for the graduates, when into the job market, is to work with integrity. And that will allow the student, the graduates, to prosper in any organization. Sometimes employees who work with integrity, sometimes suddenly might make a mistake, a major mistake. And look at here, a major mistake in their work. But what will happen is that because these employees are working with integrity, managers sometimes become lenient. They know that this employee, is working hard, is not doing wrong things. It is, he or she is trying his or her best. Therefore, they will overlook these mistakes and, they try to work with the employees. That's one benefit of working with integrity. And another thing is that, of course, it creates an environment for you to climb up the ladder in organizations. And also we have seen cases that the employees have not worked with integrity, and of course in many occasions they will be dismissed. And I want also to share another experience that, another article I read it was about 20 years ago at UVA. They did some research, and they noticed that as many as 10% of the employees in an organization do not steal from their employers. They are honest, 10%. And also 10% are dishonest, no matter what. That means we have 10% of employees who are always honest, and we have, no matter what, if the boss is there, if they are watching, if the cash register is, everything is all transactions are in cash, nobody is watching them, this 10% do not steal, they are honest. 10% of organizations still, regardless of what, you have camera, you have something. Therefore, how about those 80%? What happens? Because if 10% here, 10% there, what happens to 80%? If those 80% of the employees are being watched and being supervised and being, having a good manager watching, by watching means that, making sure you have checks and balances, those 80% of employees fall in the category of those who do not steal, which means the organization will have 90% of honest employees. However, if things are not watched, those 80% of the employees, which are, I call it undecided, will fall in the category of those employees who steal. Do you see? This was an article I read. They did some research in business school of UVA 20 years ago, and they mentioned about that. But anyhow, I felt that I wanted to discuss that one. But I come here and talk about the other thing that I shared with one of the students. And sometimes I advise graduating students that when they go they enter into job market, they find a new jobs, they find suddenly tough managers and difficult co-workers. Particularly, it happens at the beginning. You go and get a nice job that you always wanted to have. The first day, second day, you go there and suddenly you see some employees are hostile to you. And you see the manager, suddenly you might not like the manager. It becomes very frustrating. And my goal to you is that, don't be surprised. Sometimes the job market is like that. The trick is that you stay, try to survive, and after a while, suddenly you see that things will get easier for you. And, things, much. I had a graduate, a student of us, graduated with a degree from us, associate degree, and that student went to Marshall University and got a master's degree in criminal justice. She was lucky, got a internship, got an internship, with the FBI, and then they hired her. During the first weeks and several weeks, she was under a lot of stress. She thought maybe she wouldn't like the job, but she survived. After a few months, she loved her job. Therefore, it happens a lot in organizations. You go and get a job at the beginning, you feel that you don't like it, and then suddenly, after a while, you feel that, oh, such a nice job, and you learn how to deal with difficult employees, you find your own friends, and suddenly things get easier for you. That's something you want to have. And also, one thing I want to mention is that I had a friend which gave me a good advice, said that you have to be a diplomat. When you work for an organization, when you deal with other people, you have to use diplomacy. It means be a diplomat. Try to resolve things in a very smart manner to make sure you don't get yourself into trouble, and you are able to solve your problems. And also, one more thing I want to say is that many employees in many organizations, when they enter, suddenly they feel, not only for a long period of time, they might see that they might not like their bosses. Therefore, what could you do? What can be done? Sometimes you have to learn how to get around with, how to stay in the organization. Now, if it becomes impossible, maybe you want to switch your job, but try to stay. Try to, find around a way to get along with the manager. You might not be the only employee that you have issues with with that manager. Therefore, or maybe your behavior is something, or maybe your skills are something which do not match with what the organization wants. But if you are a diplomat, you will be able to stay there. Sometimes we used to offer a lot of face-to-face classes, and I used to go there to the classes and sometimes talk to the students, and who were taking business classes, to advise them, and said that when you enter into the job market, sometimes you feel you do not like your boss and you are under stress. And my advice to them is that don't worry about it. Go and wait until 4 o'clock every day. You get off, and jokingly telling them that, go home and take a beer and have a beer and forget about everything. Therefore, when you go to and you have a job, you have to take it easy and know that many job market is very, the market sometimes, the work environment can be somewhat stressful. Different organizations, particularly in some for-profit organizations, there are always fight. Maybe non-profits have less, are less stressful in many occasions. But, that's the way that the job market is. And you all, as I said, try to be as diplomatic as possible. And hopefully you can, I have seen many people coming to this college, and some people couldn't get along. They left, some survived. And I am one of those survivors, and I say that, I have not been dismissed from any job, but at the same time, I was able to survive, work under stress, and, therefore, so you have to, learn about this, when you go to different employers and study, and you have any questions, I'll tell you, you already know. Go to ChatGPT. You have a problem with your boss, you go there to ChatGPT and say, I have a problem with this co-employee. What do you say? What's your recommendation? Go to Grok, ask other, AI tools, and get as much advice and try to know as much as possible. It doesn't mean necessarily you have to act on whatever ChatGPT is telling you, but the more you know about the work environment and how it works, the better it is.